Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 54 of 2019. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can tweet me at OBKiev. Tweet us at The Odds Breakers. Follow us on social media /The Odds Breakers. This episode is being sponsored by betonline.ag for a 50% bonus and getting the lines early. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com/betonline. Terms and conditions apply. But these lines come out Sunday for the college football. So if you want to hit the early lines, I really recommend this. If you'd like to help us out and sponsor our podcast and website, we'd love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become a member for $17.99 a month. You'll get my plays and premium plays before the line moves. For $2 more, you can have all that and become a patron subscriber. Get the podcast a little early, and if nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free picks newsletter subscriber. All right, it's time to get back on the horse. I have a little announcement as well. I think I touched on it last episode. I will be on vacation with family in Mission Beach, Pacific Beach, San Diego. Now, obviously, that doesn't stop me from capping because that's just what I do. And I'm going to be putting out plays. We're going to be putting out the podcast just like normal. Might be a little bit dumber of a version, a little dumbed down a little bit. Might not, do a huge recap or anything, but we're going to podcast maybe even a little bit from a beach, maybe even throw a surprise in there for you guys as well. The football season doesn't stop, and neither do we. So excited for my vacation with the family, but I'm also excited to do the best I can to give you guys as much information as possible. We have a special guest today. Mr. Brian Edwards from BrianEdwardsSports.com is going to break down a few huge college games this week. His Gators is playing Auburn. I bet he's excited about that game. And I'm going to cover the NFL myself. And so this podcast is going to come out a little early. Since I'm leaving, I might as well shoot it out a little early. It's going to come out Wednesday during the day rather than Thursday early morning. So be prepared. Obviously, if you're downloading it right now, you know that. But just wanted to make sure that you knew that it's normally going to be on early Thursday mornings. This is just going to be the difference. So let's get right into some of these games, and I have some big premium plays in this slate, so I'm going to have to kind of dance around those to keep the integrity of our premium clients. But either way, we're going to give you some free plays. Looking at the Rams versus the Seahawks this week, the Rams are laying about 1.5 to 2 points, depending upon where you are looking. The Rams are coming off that huge Tampa Bay disappointment loss. We were on Tampa Bay on the side in the money line for our largest play. Glad that hit. It was a tough NFL week for everybody. Every sharp bettor. The NFL, it's its own monster. Sometimes it can be good. Sometimes it can be bad. But I actually feel pretty good about this week. Seattle, the question is, what we see about the what we saw against the not the Rams, the Cardinals, is that real, or are the Cardinals that bad? That's something you have to kind of gauge. Seattle's good at home usually, but this year for some reason they're not. As a matter of fact, all the home teams seem to suck last week. So, this game, do you want to fade Seattle at home? That's completely up to you. Are the Rams a better team by roughly, since they're dogs by 2, this is saying they're only better than Seattle by 1 point. You're going to have to make that decision on this one because I'm not going to do it for you. But, this is usually want to bet on teams that are coming off the nasty losses and fading the teams that came off the big win. That's just sports betting 101 in general. Next game, Baltimore versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh +4. Okay, here. Pittsburgh was much improved, but then again, they played a crappy Bengals team. Okay. A terrible Bengals team. So I don't know what to think of that, but I do like what I saw from Mason Rudolph. I do like the fact that they only lost by 4 to San Fran last week, even though probably should have been a little bit more than that. But what we're finding out is something about Baltimore, and there are a lot of smoke and mirrors. They started out the season against Miami and destroyed them. Everyone's just salivating over Lamar Jackson. They played Arizona, didn't cover the spread, but beat them, put up some points. Played Kansas City from behind. The officials kind of helped them out a little bit, in my opinion. And then they go at home against Cleveland and straight out lose. Okay? So I think what you're finding is the cat's coming out of the bag here. What I like is always a home dog, especially now that the season's gotten started. This is a home dog over 3 points here. Okay. And I think that Mason Rudolph has gotten better. You look at the strength of schedule. I think that says everything. Kind of what I was touching on. Baltimore ranks 29th on Sagarin, and Pittsburgh ranks 5th in strength of schedule. And they're a home dog by 4 points. That's just a lot. As a matter of fact, if you look at Sagarin's power ratings, he has Pittsburgh better than Baltimore, which he's saying that Pittsburgh should be favored by about 4 points. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go that far. I'm not going to go that far, right? I have this game as a pick'em, but the fact that I can grab 4 points certainly goes to my advantage here. And I don't like betting on Tomlin, but this is kind of where it's a division game. You got the home dog at 4. They're disrespected. Mason Rudolph kind of put it together, being 24 for 28 last game with 2 TDs. I have to go with the points here. Home doggy dog. I like it anywhere above 2. I'm hoping you guys get this above 3 by the time this podcast comes out. 2-star play. All right, moving on. We have the Bears versus the Raiders. The Bears. So there's 2 simple things you really need to look at here. What's Khalil Mack going to do to his old team that traded him and wouldn't pay him? I mean, have you seen the Bears defense play? It's just something else. How explosive this team is. I mean, they rank number 3 in running back yards. They rank number 1 in open field tackling, cornerbacks, defending the pass. They rank number 3 in linebackers. This Bears team is extremely good. And now that the Raiders coming off that big win, I don't know what the hell they're going to do. Plus, Mitch is out, but was that really a downgrade? I mean, ask yourself, was that really a downgrade? The only thing you really need to do about this, I know it's a 5-point line, is to look at what the Raiders did their last 2 years in London. Let's move on. Oh, the Arizona Cardinals versus the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, do I really have to cover this game? These 2 putrid teams playing each other. What a disgusting game. These 2 teams right here, they shouldn't even be in the NFL. I mean, this game is full of complete incompetence, terrible coaching, awful defensive play, terrible offensive play. They're just a bunch of no-talent ass clowns. I mean, this game is like Akron versus UMass last week. Arizona versus Cincinnati. Can you believe this? This shouldn't even be on television. This is like an FCS game. Or maybe even Division 4, if that even exists anymore. Okay? I don't even know what to do with this. Cincinnati being favored at 3.5. I mean, I could see Cincinnati winning 24-3. I can see Arizona winning 20-3. I can see them being at 19-18. I could see it being at 34-46. I don't know. These teams are so bad that you can't even predict which one's worse. There's not one game that I have ever been less interested in betting, looking at, or watching. I don't even think it's worthy of me looking at the box score to find out how much lower I can actually downgrade these two pathetic teams. Not to mention Cincinnati completely screwed my over last week. All right, moving on. Sorry about that. Jacksonville versus Carolina. Carolina is favored by 3.5. Over-under is 41 points. So I kind of like both these teams, and I kind of like both of these quarterbacks. You know, Gardner Minshew. You know, this is a free play, by the way. Gardner Minshew's awesome. He's got a lot of swag to him. Kyle Allen, better than Cam. Completing over 70% of his passes the last 2 games. 2 years ago, I'd be betting this under 41. But not today, baby. Not today. Jacksonville's D is good, but not as great as it was a few years ago. Carolina's D looks good only because they played an easier schedule, ranking 20th. And they still gave up 20 points per game. This total is too low. I like the fact that Jalen Ramsey is not playing here. You know, sometimes you just got to throw the numbers away and just kind of looking at the trajectory of these two teams. You know, the numbers is what screws a lot of sharp bettors over. I'm looking at Kyle Allen. I'm looking at Gardner Minshew. And I'm looking at the fact that Christian McCaffrey is going to help put up some yards. Leonard Fournette's had a lot better of a game. They're going to go over 41 points here. And this is a play for 3 stars. I think that Jacksonville versus Carolina goes over 41 points just due to the fact that these offenses have improved with these new quarterbacks and the defenses have regressed a little bit. Book it. All right, next game. Minnesota Vikings versus the New York Giants. The Vikings just looked terrible, but it was against a great Bears defense. But at the same time, it's Kirk Cousins. Ranks 32nd in QBR out of all quarterbacks. Not a good look. The Giants have a little swag to them right now with Daniel Jones, but they still don't have Saquon Barkley. The Vikings are laying 5.5 points. So a running team is laying 5.5 points. What does that tell you? That tells you that the Giants shouldn't be scoring a lot of points here. The over-under is 45. I'm going to let you guys make the call on this. New England versus the Redskins. Another great team that had a close game against a pathetic team. The only way to do it is play New England here. So, I mean, a strong lean to New England. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to make this play. Let's find out what terrible quarterback Jay Gruden can actually put in. And as far as job security, I want a job with the Washington Redskins because that way I know I can be a completely incompetent, half-witted nincompoop and still be able to work there. Let's move on. Next game, you have the Jets versus the Eagles. The Eagles laying 14 points against the pathetic Jets. So, I mean, the Jets had what? Is Falk their quarterback this week? I think it is. I mean, I didn't look at this game a lot. I know the Eagles are really injured, but I think the only side to play here is the Eagles. I just don't see how the Jets score many points, looking how bad that they are. Now, maybe the bye week helped them. I don't know. But, I mean, the Eagles, they have a goal, and it's to win the Super Bowl with their quarterback. I think that they have a shot here to blow this Jets team out. It's not a play yet, but it's another strong lean. Maybe tease the Patriots and the Eagles there. There you go. What the hell? Not official play, but what the hell? But in all seriousness, Sam Darnold's not cleared for contact yet. C.J. Mosley and Quinnen Williams is still on the questionable. That if one or two of those guys are out, it'll probably be a play for me. Next game, Tampa versus the New Orleans Saints. Both teams won last week. Tampa's looking a lot better under the quarterback whisperer, Bruce Arians. The Saints have a great coach in Sean Payton, who outcoached Jason Garrett last week. This spread's about right at 3. Total's about right at 47.5. I'm not going to touch this one. Tampa likes to make these games shootouts. Falcons versus Texans. Falcons dogs by 5 points. Which bad coach do you want to bet on? Bill O'Brien or Dan Quinn? This is probably a neither for me. And both teams would be better if they had better coaches. It's just the incompetence level sometimes. You can only find certain spots to bet them in. They both lost last week. They're both going to be trying this game. I mean, in the power ratings, I have the Texans about 5.5 points better at home, roughly. 5-ish. So no value for me there. Denver versus the Chargers. Denver had some terrible news with Nick Chubb, one of their edge rushers, tore his ACL. He's out of the game, out for the season. 0-4. The question is, are they going to play with desperation? Which you would think so. Or the other question is, do they kind of give up? I think they play with desperation here, and I lean to the plus 6.5, but I'm not touching that total right there. The Chargers, they get pretty pass happy, and Phillip Rivers has been known to throw his share of picks. Packers versus Cowboys. Packers may be without Devontae Adams. And I'm just going to tell you right now, the Packers are dogs by 3.5. Cowboys are my 3.5 point favorites. I have the Cowboys, even with Devontae Adams, better than 3.5 points, but you're not exactly at a key number here either. That's another issue. You're kind of gambling from 3.5 to 5.5 there. The 3.5 is kind of telling me the Cowboys is the right side, though. In a way, it's not really getting forced to 3 at all. I think a 3 popped in one book, and then it's been hit. And if Adams is out, I'd be more inclined to play Dallas. And you see, Green Bay, they rely on Adams not only as a pass catcher, but as a decoy to throw it to other people. What scares me is LaFleur has 9 days here to prep for this. I'm going to follow this line, and if I get confirmation on Adams out, and this is a 3, then I'm going to take it. 3.5, I might just have a strong lean. I don't know. That's kind of how this game shapes up to me. Both teams lost, so they both want to win here. Colts versus Chiefs, 11-point spread. Can Brissett just keep it close? Can he get a garbage touchdown against a bad Chiefs defense? That's really what it's all about. I can't play the Chiefs here, but I can probably tease either side. I mean, I could tease the Chiefs down to past key numbers, past the 10, past the 7. You can tease the sucker all the way down to 5. So that's a lot of key numbers here. So the Chiefs are probably a great teaser. But I still want to wait on Darius Leonard and T.Y. Hilton's status. That's what I kind of want to hear a little bit more about. And hopefully they won't keep it covered till Sunday. But the Chiefs are definitely a teaser candidate. Finally, the Browns versus the Niners. Niners coming off a bye. They have a better coach. They're laying 3.5 points. The Browns, though, looked really good against the Ravens. So there's your decision. It has to be made right there. I'm going to give out a teaser here that I do know about. I'm going to tease the Giants to plus 11.5 and the Falcons to plus 11. And that's our teaser of the week. It's going to be a 2-star teaser. I think that the incompetence of Houston, I mean, they haven't been putting up a lot of points. They're defensive oriented. I think that the fact that the Falcons are desperate, they're going to keep it within 10 points here. I mean, the spread is 5? So I like going past the key number of 7 and the key number of 10. But like I said before, I really like Kansas City at the 11 in a teaser here. And, I guess if Darius Leonard and T.Y. Hilton do come back and this thing goes down to like 8 or so or 9, you still might be primed for a teaser here because you can get it from, let's just say it's 8. You can get it all the way to 2, 8.5. You can get it down to 2.5. So they're a pretty good teaser candidate. I'm going to think a little bit more about this. It's early in the week. Had to do the podcast early, as you know, because I am leaving to San Diego. All right. Well, that's the NFL. To recap, your plays are Buffalo +3, 2 stars. Pittsburgh +4, 2 stars. Jacksonville versus Carolina over 41, 3 stars. And the teaser, Giants +11.5, and the Falcons +11. Let's bring on Brian Edwards from Brian Edwards Sports and VegasInsider.com. Now, I'm very excited to welcome back a longtime contributor to the show. You've heard him on many sports radio shows all over the nation. You can find his work on VegasInsider.com and MajorWager.com. I'm happy to welcome back Brian Edwards from Brian Edwards Sports and the Games Galore podcast. You can follow him at Vegas B Edwards. How you doing, Brian?
What's happening, Kiev, man? It's October, and Wisconsin and Florida are both undefeated. So,
woo! Oh, it's a great thing, man. It's a great thing, but unfortunately, after this little Kent State game that we're gonna roll over, we have a hard schedule ourselves, and I know Florida facing an Auburn team that we didn't quite know much about before the season, and now we do know about them. As a matter of fact, the tides have turned in their favorites now in that game, and that's one of the games on my list to talk about, so we can definitely do that. But we got to be happy. You got through your Kentucky, we got through our Michigan, but we do have Michigan State, and then Illinois, then Ohio State, then Nebraska at Nebraska. So it's going to be an interesting little 4 games here. If the Badgers can get through and just come out with one loss, that'd be fantastic out of those 4 teams. If they can come out with 2, I understand it. Michigan State, Ohio State, Iowa, and Nebraska are pretty tough. I would like to. Everyone jumped on the Badgers after their start, after they beat Michigan, and then they had the letdown against Northwestern, and that was just one of those games. Northwestern always plays them good. There's still quarterback questions with Jack Cohn, and I'm not sure. And this is kind of that weird deal where you saw Dabo Swinney made that bold move to Trevor Lawrence while being undefeated, and it won him a national title. I wonder if we would even think of doing the same thing to Graham Mertz, the other big recruit that we got as quarterback. But Jack's been good so far. I still say short leash myself, so we'll see what happens there. The Badgers are just killing it in the running game, and their defense looks fantastic, so I'm happy about that. But your Gators are right there and undefeated here, and I'm excited to watch the Auburn game, man.
Yeah, it should be a good one. At last look, which was like an hour ago, it was Auburn -3, pretty much across the board. I think I've seen 3.5 offshore, but total 47. Under Gus Malzahn, Auburn is 8-5-1 against the spread as a road favorite. Florida is a home dog. 1-0 under Mullen. The win as a short dog over LSU last week, but only 3-5 against the spread since 2009 as a home dog. The concern for me with this matchup for the Gators is, and when we talked this summer, we previewed the SEC. I said that Auburn was really the wild card.
You did.
I thought they had a top 5 in America defense, maybe the best defensive line in the country, and it was just a matter of no experience at quarterback. But I think we all kind of figured Bo Nix or Gatewood. I think Gatewood's pretty good too. Would get better as the season progressed, and that's when they have Alabama and Georgia at home. It was just a matter if they can survive a tough early season schedule. They kind of were fortunate against Oregon, but they pretty much dominated A&M. They definitely dominated Mississippi State last week, and Bo Nix is only going to get better game in and game out, and Mullen's got a real challenge this week with getting creative with his play calling because Florida's weakness is O-line And Auburn's D-line is going to dominate Florida's O-line, but that hopefully can be remedied by some creative play calling. And I think Florida's defense, Jabari Zuniga's been out the last 2 games, preseason All-American, and C.J. Henderson, a 2-time second-team All-SEC cornerback. He sprained his ankle in week 2. I really think he could have played probably against Tennessee and definitely last week, but they just wanted to get that thing right for this week. So Florida's got their 2 best players on defense coming back that have been missing. Mm-hmm. So I could see it being low scoring, but I don't like playing unders in the 40s in college because you get a special teams or defensive touchdown and then potential of overtime, certainly in this game with a tight spread and a game I think will be a nail-biter. I can't do the under. So right now I'm actually on the sidelines for this one because I give Auburn a slight edge in this game based on the D-line against Florida O-line matchup, but then you got to factor in home field. But, Bo Nix played, he played decent at A&M, but, it didn't matter. They got out to a good lead. I normally look to fade true freshman quarterbacks on the road, but I think this is a toss-up game, and I understand Auburn being favored the way they're rolling right now.
Yeah, man, Auburn, I almost took them against A&M, and just a lot of people said no, A&M's aside, and I got talked out of that one, and I regret it. Auburn, just like you said they're a wild card, and they're a big one right now. I have them in my top 10. And I agree with you. I don't have a player aside. Like you said, special teams touchdown can screw out your under. A pick 6 screws up your under, right? Freshman quarterback and, unexperienced quarterback for Florida, right? Who's quarterbacking today for Florida? It's Kyle
Trask, and he's been an upgrade from Felipe Franks. He's played outstanding. I mean, he did throw a couple of picks in the second half, but it was after Florida had a big lead against Tennessee. When he came in late third, they outscored Kentucky 19-0. He played great at crunch time there. He completed, it was either his first 15 or 17 passes, albeit against an FCS team in Towson last week. But he's lining it up. He's a definite upgrade over Felipe Franks. And I think Florida's offense is a lot better. I feel like the Vegas odds makers, if you will, when they had the updated games of the year last week, I feel like they've downgraded Florida because of the loss of Franks. That's a mistake. Florida's a better offense with Kyle Trask, who makes much quicker decisions. Probably not as big a running threat, but he is pretty athletic and has run. I mean, he ran the game-winning touchdown against Kentucky with a QB draw. So Kyle Trask has been outstanding, and I think he'll continue to be.
Yeah, it's looking great right there. So I'm so excited to watch this game. I have Auburn in my top 10, and I'll quickly go over my top 10 because that was one of the questions I have for you. I have Alabama number 1 by a slight margin over Clemson, and then I have Ohio State right under that. Ohio State was the highest upgrade I probably made in the Big Ten. Yeah, I was already high in Wisconsin. That's why. So I was above the market in Wisconsin. So that's why. But Georgia, I have at 4th, and probably mostly because of the coaching over there. They tried to blow that last game again, or that Notre Dame game again. LSU, I have next at 5. Oklahoma at 6. Auburn at 7. Wisconsin at 8. And I have Notre Dame at 9 and Texas at 10. Is that similar to yours? How's yours looking?
Very similar. I had Clemson number 1 up until this week. I moved them down 1 spot with Alabama replacing them. I actually had LSU at 3 even before the Texas game. I've kept them at 3, and I've had Ohio State 4 for a couple of weeks. I moved Oklahoma up 1 and Georgia down 1 this week. So I've got Oklahoma 5, Georgia 6, Auburn 7, Wisconsin 8, Florida 9, Notre Dame 10, and then I've got Texas at 11. So I think our top 11 is at least all the same teams and maybe just a spot or 2 off on a couple.
Yeah, I don't have Florida too far from there. I think they're number 12 for me. So, yeah, very close there. And, Michigan State, we'll see what happens when they play Ohio State, but we get into that game anyway, my man. I want to thank you, though, for that Hawaii overcall that you made. That thing looks like it's on its way to an easy over on our last podcast. So we have you to thank for that one, my man. I took that and gave that out myself when I dug into that one. So very good call. Let's get into
Virginia. Not looking too bad either on that win total.
Oh, yeah. I was on Virginia a long time ago, too. But it was nice to hear you say that, though, because, whenever cappers agree, it makes you feel stronger. Yeah, Virginia, that win total's, that thing's coasting right now. My Minnesota win total's going to coast, but it doesn't look like they're going to win the Big Ten by any means unless some chaos happens. But they only get Penn State out of the Big Four on the other side, and they get them at home. So they're still, I was on Wisconsin to win the Big Ten and the Big Ten West, and I was on Minnesota to win the Big Ten and the Big Ten West. So I've got some fat lines with that. I got 70-1 on Minnesota, 15-1 on Wisconsin there, and 4 and 5-1 respectively each just to win the West. So I figured 2 plays was right. Right now it's looking like the right side unless Nebraska can pull their heads out of their ass completely. But I'm glad I faded them, and Iowa's the only real trouble that I'm worried about right now. So real happy about my Big Ten. Oh, and my Purdue under, yeah, that thing's going to hit too. So. Pretty excited.
Well, especially after those injuries last week, that thing's gold.
Oh, that thing's freaking gold, man. That thing, they should cash that right now. Wish they could. I was wrong about a few though too. I had FIU for some reason. They returned a ton of people and they suck. And
they have been a major disappointment, man. FIU has been a major disappointment.
Yeah, major, absolutely. I don't know what the heck happened there. And I don't know if there's a little quarterback controversy down there. Davis is kind of, being looked at. It's just very strange why they're down so much. But, as long as we get most of them right, that's important. I'm really happy I took Tulane 40-1. And De'Aaron King.
Well, you got a 40-1 ticket for them to win the AAC conference or division?
The conference, not the division. But
nice, you got to feel good about that.
I do, and I got Cincinnati on the other side of that sucker at 7-1. So we'll be talking a little bit about that Cincinnati Central Florida game coming up here. So I was hoping Cincinnati will play Tulane, and I can just kind of sit back, a little bit and just crack a beer. But we'll see. It's all coming down to literally this game itself, and obviously Memphis can be a pain in my ass on the other side too. And but I'm not super high on Memphis, so we'll see what happens on that one. But I'm liking what I did there, so gave that out to customers, and we'll see what happens. But let's get right into that game, my man. Central Florida versus Cincinnati. Cincinnati, it's kind of bouncing from 4.5 and back and forth from the lines I've been looking at. Over-unders at 60.5. What are your thoughts on this, baby?
I made UCF 3.5. They've got an excellent quarterback play from Dylan Gabriel, 14-2 TD/INT ratio. I didn't watch Cincy's game at Ohio State. In fact, I had the over on that one, figuring Cincy would find a way to give me 14 and that Ohio State would score at least 40. But, other than that mulligan, and look, Ohio State's smashing everybody. Mm-hmm. Look, not many people go into Huntington and smash Marshall 52-14 the way Cincy did last week. And UCLA had that comeback against Wazoo, and, if the quarterback doesn't get hurt last week, maybe they pull that one out. That win over UCLA, it looks okay. UCF obviously loses against Pitt, and then Pitt didn't have Pickett, the quarterback, last week when they almost lost to FCS Delaware. I just think it's a good line right here. Unless we see a lot I would love for there to be some UCF action late and for maybe to creep up I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if they were to creep up to 6, on the short week, since he's a home dog, I might look at them. The total is kind of low for UCF, but it's really high for Cincy. Barring line moves, I'm probably on the sidelines for this one. I just think it's kind of a toss-up game. Mm-hmm. And, again, if I were to get maybe another extra point or two, maybe I'd look to Cincy. They've got a really solid defense despite losing James Wiggins, one of the best safeties in the country, to an ACL tear. Pickle's done a heck of a job, and but obviously Heupel has too. This will be a good one. Right now, I don't have a play.
Yeah, and I think I'm not going to, but I think I know what direction this line is going to go to, and I think I will have a play by time this game kicks off here. UCF is such a public team now, and for good reason. Sometimes the power ratings can't even tell you the difference when a team's just playing so fast because they add 10%, 20% more to the game, right? And that's why they've been an ATS darling. A great offense like UCF. It's Cincinnati had a chance to beat them last year and didn't, but that was with Mackenzie Milton over there. I know that they're doing well and they have a decent quarterback with Gabriel, but he's a freshman and he's going on the road, and Cincinnati returned a lot of production. They gave up against Ohio State, which they should have, man. I mean, that game, they're out of that game pretty quickly. Some bad stuff happened to them, and they got jumped, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe the Ohio State game with Ohio State, how they spread it out, they can play upper tempo. That might help them get ready for this game. And this is for all the marbles here. This is what Cincinnati's been circling here. And I'll tell you this, Mackenzie Milton, he was just so awesome for this team, and I think they are downgraded here. And I do not like UCF. I mean, they beat a bad Stanford team, and you see how bad Stanford's been.
Brutal.
They lost to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's a pretty good team, but they're very similar to Cincinnati. Pound the ball, Michael Warren running the ball for Cincinnati. It's a similar type situation. It's a similar type game here, and I think since it's going to come down to whoever wants this more. So this is all the marbles on my 7-1 ticket. I would love it if Tulane's playing Cincinnati at the end, but I'd like the Cincinnati side here. I think it's their turn. I think they're going to turn it up on this game, and I'm going to play it, but I'm not playing it this minute. I bet this thing goes all the way up to 6, could even go a little bit higher. So I think this one's a wait for myself. And any last thoughts?
Well, yeah, no, I hope it does go that way, like you said. If it gets to 6, I'll have a little on Cincy. Obviously, always advantageous to the home team on the short week, and at home. If you're getting 6, I would have to go Bearcats. Yeah,
this is their Super Bowl here. They better win this game. Let's move on to the next one. We have Iowa versus Michigan. Michigan laying about 5.5. Over under was around 48 this morning. Both these teams, man, I'll start this one. Their offensive numbers are skewed, in my opinion, to playing some bad teams. Obviously, when they stepped up in class, you saw what happens when Michigan played Army, which is a solid running punch you in the mouth type defense and offense, right? Couldn't score a ton. You saw when Michigan played Wisconsin, they were pretty much out of the game until Wisconsin, let them get garbage at the end. So that was important to me. Iowa, on the other hand, has played tomato cans themselves, right? They played teams like Miami of Ohio, Middle Tennessee State. Ohio's been just dumping those teams, and the only one they stepped up in class was Iowa State. That was the only one, and you saw what they scored in the teens, right? These two teams met a couple years back, and the score was 14-13. Iowa won at the end of this game. I'm thinking this total's a little too high for me. That's the only way I could look at it, but I definitely lean Iowa. My power ratings has Michigan by 5, but my algorithm has Iowa winning. So I got to go by my power ratings because it's just hard to see with just such a spread out schedule playing all these easy teams. It's hard to go by pure statistics right now, but until later in the year. But I think looking towards the under is the best play. What are your thoughts?
I like Iowa. I've got them 14th in my power rankings. I made it a pick 'em. Now, this stat probably isn't as relevant just because they don't play yearly, but I'll point it out nonetheless. Iowa's won 5 of the last 6 in this rivalry. I think Iowa's got the better quarterback. I think they've got the better coach. You look at injuries. Now, Iowa's got several starters. In fact, they've got 4 starters questionable. But Michigan's one of their better defensive players, junior middle linebacker Josh Ross. He is doubtful. He's a big-time player for them, 61 tackles. Last season, 4 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 3 passes, 3 QB hurries. In fact, he was their leading returning tackler coming back this year. So I just am so down on Michigan. I've been so disappointed in Shea Patterson. I mean, not that I care about Michigan. I'm just saying from my expectations for Shea Patterson, I just don't think he has played up to snuff. And I just prefer Nate Stanley, and I prefer the Hawkeyes here, especially, catching 5. I think they got a great chance to win outright.
Yeah, when Shea Patterson gets rattled, that's when he's completely freezes up. I mean, that's when he can't even play good quarterback anymore. The question is, will Iowa and their nice big fat defensive line get to them? They're not great at sacking the ball. They only rank 108th in sacks per game, even with that easy schedule. That's the only thing that's keeping me off Iowa. Really, it's just looking at that. But that's why I kind of like the under, and I totally get it. I lean Iowa. This thing passes the 6. I'm probably going to be on them, but I don't know. Why is my power rating still higher on Michigan? I don't know. Maybe I didn't adjust it enough. That's just one of those things that you have to kind of compare yours to others and kind of see what happens. And this is going to be kind of one of those punch in the mouth defensive games, and we'll see if Michigan loses at home, because if that happens against Iowa, Harbaugh might be on the walking the plank. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my live odds, and I was kind of away from. I'd gone to the gym earlier, been away from the computer for a little while. This line has dropped to 3.5 at most books, even 3 at Caesars. So I think our hope that it might go up to 6 might be gone, brother. In fact, I'm starting to. I wish I would have gotten a better number last night. All the way down to 3. I feel there's a 4 at the Mirage, but most books 3.5, and even Caesar's down to 3.
Well, you can see that trend then, fade the Michigan trend here. Holy cow. When I was just so vanilla on offense sometimes. God. Well, I wonder if the under's dropping too. What's the under at?
I see 48. Pretty much all the way. I mean, not all the Vegas books have totals yet, but yeah, all the offshores are 48.
Okay, gotcha. So there's still some chance there if people are interested. Well, let's move on to this next one, my man. Maryland versus Rutgers. Rutgers is plus 14. Over under is 53.5. I am sorry for throwing this one at you, Brian.
No problem. They all pay the same. They all pay the same.
They all pay the same. But this one has an interesting thing that because of Coach Chris Ash got fired by losing to good old Harbaugh. And I find that as an interesting angle because from what I know, and I do not have the statistic, I look for it, but I couldn't find it. But when a team loses their head coach, the bug goes right up their ass and they play a lot better the next game, and usually cover the spreads and sometimes outright win. And that's what I'm wondering if this is going to happen to Rutgers, because now the team it's on themselves. They feel bad about what happened. They're going to kind of play at 120% is kind of what happens in general. So, do you have any thoughts on that trend or this situation?
Well, I wrote about Ash on Sunday, so just from my reading, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. The interim head coach is Nunzio Campanile. So he's been a high school coach in New Jersey, for nearly 2 decades, and his first college job was when Ash hired him 19 months ago. So, this is a guy who. I'm not saying he's out of his league, we'll see, but he's only been at the collegiate level 19 months. He uses spread concepts and is going to try to incorporate that. Now, McLean Carter, the QB's missed the last couple games with a concussion. He's still questionable in concussion protocol, and Archer Sitkowski, who was so awful last year, granted, albeit as a true freshman on a bad team against Big Ten top competition, but he was 4 of 18 TDI-INT ratio last year. He's been a little better this year. His completion percentage, but still only 1 touchdown pass and 2 interceptions, and the 1 touchdown pass he threw, his offensive lineman dotted his eye right after the play. I've got a little scoop on the job, or I don't have the scoop. I got it from Football Scoop, a report that the reason why Schiano resigned with the Patriots in March after he was hired in February was that Rutgers bigwigs were already reaching out to him. They wanted to hire him when they fired Ash this year, and Schiano wants to go back to Rutgers, and he told Belichick that, and Belichick goes, well, this isn't going to work because, you would have to leave, late November, December, and I can't have my defensive coordinator doing that. So the writing's on the wall that Schiano is coming back to Piscataway, but that didn't have anything to do with this game. I made Maryland 12.5. They're 13.5 at most books. They've got an extra day of rest after that bludgeoning they took last Friday night. Again, I'm sorry to be a fence sitter here, Kiev, but because I know what you're talking about. A lot of teams do play with a little renewed energy with an interim head coach. But Rutgers is so bad, and I'm staying away from this one.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter if the kids would get beat by most of the FCS teams, right? Well, that's an angle, and I'm going to test this angle personally. I'm going to put a sprinkle, and it's not going to be a premium play by any means, but I'm going to put a very small amount of beer money. A case of beer or something on Rutgers here and see if they can buy me a case of beer for my theory and see if that thing goes out, because if I'm out a case of beer, I think I'm going to be okay, my man. So we'll see what happens in that one. Well, let's move on to something that's going to be a little bit bigger of a game, and according to the total, tells you this is probably one you might want to watch. Utah State versus LSU. This one thing went from 24 all the way up to minus 28. Over under is 73 here. You're the SEC man, Brian. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, LSU has looked phenomenal, and I'm certainly not looking to go against them, but I will certainly note that Utah State is a program that I've had a lot of respect for, going back to Gary Anderson's first run there when he had Chucky Keaton, who unfortunately had those 3 bad knee injuries, or he might be playing in the NFL right now. Utah State really struggled last week. Colorado State was without their best receiver, and obviously, Colin Hill got hurt a few weeks ago, and even their Marvin Kinsey, the stud running back, who was listed as doubtful, he did play, but he was at less than 100%. But they only beat the Rams by 10. And look, Jordan Love, he was only one of 2 returning starters on offense, so he doesn't really have that arsenal of talent he had on that offense last year when they averaged 47.5 points per game. Just looking at Utah State, they've been outstanding as a road dog since 2009. In fact, they are 24-15 against the spread going back to 2009. I'm not going to go against LSU. I'm not looking to do it. Joe Burrow has just been unbelievable. I mean, and I know I got a stat right here on one of my notebooks, or maybe. Anyway, he's completed more than 80% of his passes. I mean, he's just, here it is. 100 out of 124, 80.6 percentage, 1,520 passing yards, 17-2 TDI-INT, 1 rushing touchdown. I mean, he's just been phenomenal. And so I don't know that I'm looking. Now, look, if I could get LSU minus 14 in the first half or minus 7 in the first quarter, we don't have those lines. I don't think we have the first quarter and first halves out yet. And I don't think we'll be able to get that. I think it'll be more like LSU minus 16 or 17 first half, and probably at least 7.5 in the first quarter. So be hard to recommend. If we could get 7 or 14 on first quarter, first half, I would look to LSU. I hammered LSU -7 in the first quarter against Vandy a couple weeks ago, which was a little bit of an anxious start. Vandy used 6 minutes and went and got a touchdown drive first time they had the ball, but LSU scored on like 3 plays, got a 4th down stop, and then went and scored on like 4 plays. It was 28-7 at the end of the first.
It was one of those. And, it's funny, LSU doesn't seem to take off the gas, which definitely concerns me. They play a lot faster there than they have before. They're playing a lot of...
Oh, they finally opened it up. They've been saying they're going to open up the offense for 5 years, and they've finally done it. But in their defense, this was, and I know I said this summer when we talked SEC, this was really the first time they've had a quarterback coming back that they like and they're confident in way over a decade. In fact, I can't even remember. I mean, I guess even one of the bigger busts in NFL history, Jamarcus Russell was probably the last time they felt good about a guy coming back. He started there several years. But, yeah, they've been dynamite. And, by the way, talking first quarter bet, I had your boys -7 first quarter last week, and it was so ready to cash until that nonsense face mask call when they were punting out of their own end zone, and they called it before the punt. I was just like, what? I don't know if you've ever seen that call before the punt, and they keep possession.
The officials have been absolutely terrible. They feel like they want to stick. They want to put their influence on the game, even though it's wrong. I don't know why that is. It did screw up a lot of the mojo there, and the derivative markets are usually really good too. It's like and seeing that happen, it's like, what the hell? It's like. Sometimes they don't understand the defender is allowed to go for the ball, and the offensive player runs into him kind of while he's doing it, and they call it on the defender because he's there. There's just a lot of weird stuff with that, and the only thing right now, since they can't figure it out that you need an eye in the sky official and to look at both sides equally, is just to hope that they call it both ways on each side. I'm a big complainer. I know that. It's because I bet on sports. That's why I care the most. But it's just, and I'm like, I'm probably just embarrassing myself. But at the same time, sometimes you feel like if you complain enough, it will change. I don't know, but that's what you're hoping for. This game. I like Jordan Love, and I was wrong. I downgraded him with Gary Anderson coming back. I did not like him at Wisconsin. I did not like him at Oregon State. And then he's coming back, and Jordan Love seems to be running this offense pretty well, and they only returned like 2 guys on offense. I'm shocked how well they're doing. If you look here, a couple of things in this game, LSU hasn't really played anybody besides Texas, I mean, Vanderbilt's they're way worse than I thought they would be, And Northern Illinois covering that 7-point spread last week too at Vanderbilt.
Did you see how that happened?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I complained about it in my last podcast. It was crazy covering the spread there. His coach is leaving. I'm forgetting his name right now. Tom Hammock goes for 2. Even though he's still in the game with an onside kick, he goes for 2 just to cover the spread, and there's 2 minutes left. It's like you kick the extra point and hope for a touchdown. I said, I'm kind of impressed. In a way, it's like, should I start betting on Tom Hammock? It was very strange, but I've never seen anything like it.
I'm not going to say I haven't seen that before, Kiev, but I mean, I can count it on one hand how many times I've seen that.
Right.
This is not, when you cut it to 8, you go for the flip an extra point. I don't know what he was doing there, but he certainly hooked up his alumni that made the trip to Nashville, that's for sure.
Well, he sure took my ticket away from me, and that was a premium play, so I was pretty he helped out his alumni. He probably got a text from somebody for all we freaking know, but that was Vanderbilt, and that's what I'm saying. LSU hasn't played anybody, and at least the Aggies rank 40th in sacks, 22nd in defensive yards per play. I mean, they just played Wake Forest, and not a huge. They didn't play really anybody anywhere, but this is the one I'm wondering if LSU's sleeping. Is LSU looking to Florida? I don't know. No.
You could certainly call this a look ahead spot. Now, I would probably call it much less of one because they've had an open date. You know what I mean?
Right, bye week.
Yeah, they've had their bye week, so I would call it less of a look ahead than you would normally say. But anybody calling this a look ahead. You can't argue with them, and not just because Florida's on deck, but I mean it really gets going after this Utah State game. You got Florida, you got to go to Starkville, then you got Auburn at home, then you've got Bama, at Ole Miss and Arkansas will be easy games, and then the big revenge game, 7 OTs against A&M.
Yeah, right. There you go. And that's going to be an awesome one, too. I almost bet the total over. I was hoping it would go down, and it went up. It was like 67, 68, I think, when it opened. And I was like, people will think that LSU's defense will stop Utah. No. And now it's at 73, and it's still probably too low, to be honest with you. I'm not taking it yet. I'm going to check on a little bit more things like the weather, but this is an interesting total too. And maybe LSU's defense does step up. I don't know. This could be one where you just kind of look to nothing like you said, or just look to Utah State a little bit and try to catch them sleeping. But that's all I have to say about this one. Let's move.
I need to look it up. Kiev. I bet that's one of the highest totals LSU's had in 15. Well, no, that year they had Mettenberger. They had a bad defense for once, and they had a good passing game. So maybe some of the totals in that Mettenberger season, which was, almost a decade ago, they might have had some high totals. But outside of that, one of the higher totals you've seen out of LSU for sure in a decade or so, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. So that tells you that they could cover the spread if they run it up and have some inclination of a defense. One thing about LSU is some people are saying they haven't had to run the ball yet. That we don't know a lot about their rushing game. It's slightly under 4 yards per carry, but do they need it? I don't know. We'll see. I guess if Burrow gets knocked up, they would. Then secondly, they haven't been challenged really by a strong defense. Texas's defense, not really. So we'll see what happens there. Let's move into another crap game. And I have to bring up Vanderbilt here because I want to see if I'm right on my power ratings, or maybe I'm a little too low on them. They're playing Ole Miss. The number's at 7.5. Over unders at 60.5. I want to let you take this one, but my power ratings has Ole Miss -9, which doesn't take them through a key number. Am I too low on Vandy here?
Well, I mean, I get it. I mean, Vandy, they haven't covered yet. They're 0-4 against the spread, but I mean, in my mind, I don't. They lost by 24 to Georgia. They lost by 28 to LSU. They go up to Purdue, but that was when Sindelar was healthy, and he after that game he was leading the nation in passing yards, and Rondale Moore was healthy. So to me, I can't just destroy Vandy because they got thumped by Georgia and LSU. Georgia and LSU, I've got, I have Georgia 6 now, but I mean, those are top 5 or top 10 teams. And look, Ole Miss kind of hung around in the first half last week, but I made Ole Miss only 3 in this game. I'm not a big fan of Luke. I like how he's so loyal to his alma mater. Going and getting Rich Rod and McIntyre, knowing that if he gets fired, they will gladly put one of those guys as interim head coach and know they have an upgrade immediately. But look, Vandy's defense has been so bad. They only have 5 sacks in 4 games, but they've been pretty good as a road dog under Madewell, just 13-12 against the spread. But I just think these are both bad teams, and I love Keyshawn Vaughn, Jared Pinkney, and Collegiate Lipscomb, and I think Riley Neal's going to continue to get better in this offense. It's just a matter of, stopping somebody. They did a pretty good job with Northern Illinois, right. Only holding to 18 points. But I think it's a nail-biter game, and we'll see what happens, but I slightly lean to Vandy.
All right. Well, you're probably taking me off it then because I was leaning to Ole Miss here. Before talking to you to see if you had to play on that side. So apparently this is probably one to stay away from. Maybe look at the total if you think these defenses collapse.
I would lean over on that total, Kiev. And I'm sorry, one more stat I have for you. Ole Miss is mired in a 2-9 against the spread slump under any, not a certain role, just in their last 11, going back to last year, 2-9 against the spread.
All right. Well, there you go right there. So, Yeah, Vandy, sometimes eventually there's value on these teams not covering the spread. So is it this week? Is something you need to look at there? Let's get right into Michigan State versus Ohio State. Ohio State is laying 20.5 points. The over-under is 49-ish. So I'll start with this one, Brian. My power ratings has this at 15.25, okay? That's what I have it at. So this would normally constitute a play, but Ohio State's kind of like UCF has been the last 3 years. They don't take the pedal off the metal. They're a little bit how LSU looks right now, how SMU looks right now. It's one of those games you're afraid to bet, even though the power ratings say correctly because of how efficient they are on offense. Michigan State, best defensive line according to the stats right now, but seeing them give up 31 points to Peyton Ramsey and the Hoosiers, he had 272 yards there. Kind of makes me wonder if I should even, think about Michigan State, because Ohio State, it doesn't matter if your defensive line is that great with Justin Fields, because he'll pick you apart in the pass. He'll roll out. It's not like they're running the ball a ton. They will run it a little with Dobbins, but they have some great misdirection plays. Ohio State's a force right now. I mean, they're a train. They're unstoppable. They're pissed. They want to be in the football playoffs. You can tell the swag that they have right now. Ryan Day is just trying to contain these beasts over there, and they've earned themselves right into my top 3. So I'm not looking to fade Ohio State by any means right here. As a matter of fact, I would wonder if I would even look at the over here, man. This game smells to me. Especially when my power ratings are that off and I'm not playing it. I'm passing on the game, buddy, but I will watch it. Do you have any thoughts on it?
Well, I 100% agree with your statement that I'm not looking to go against Ohio State right now. But I made it 18. Michigan State, a road dog over the last decade, 12-7 against the spread. Now, they got smashed at the shoe 2 years ago, but they've had pretty good history with some good Ohio State teams. They lose only 17-16 as a 21.5-point dog in 2016. They beat them outright at the shoe as a 14-point dog, 17-14 in 2015. D'Antonio, he's got a good defense. So I'm not going to be shocked if they hang around. I can't trust their offense, man. And last year's leading rusher, Connor Hayward, went into the transfer portal earlier this week. I just, if it were to get to 21.5, maybe I would think Sparty, maybe. But I'm just, I'm not looking to go against these teams like LSU and Ohio State that are really, really rolling. Oklahoma being another example. Especially on the opposite side of the ball. So, nothing for me on that one, barring a major line move.
Yeah, isn't Ohio State really good ATS too? I thought they were 4 or 5-0, right?
Yeah, well, no, they failed to cover against FAU.
Okay,
so,
okay.
Now, home favorite-wise, in the last decade, 37-32 against the spread going into this year. Let's see, this year they are 2-1 against the spread in those spots. So that would be 39-33 over the last decade as a home fave.
Yeah, there's 4 teams 5-0 against the spread: Auburn, Southern Methodist, which is SMU, Oklahoma State, and Louisiana Lafayette. And then the next 3 are Wyoming at 4-1, Washington at 4-1, Ohio State at 4-1. So there you go, right there. They are a ATS beast right now. Definitely probably a pass to me, even up to 24. Don't want to touch it. Well, buddy, I know we didn't give out a ton of plays here. Do you have any games you want to throw out there, or any plays for the listeners?
Man, it's just so early in the week. I really don't, but I mean, I definitely want your listeners to check my Twitter account, as I'm sure I'll have some more opinions as the week progresses. Just some just some light news here in the last hour or so. Pickett, the quarterback at Pitt, has been upgraded to probable at Duke. I see BYU's Zach Wilson is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks with a thumb injury. I see Georgia Tech's leading receiver Jalen Camp has gone down to a season-ending injury. Not like that offense is very prolific right now. Certainly not. But, I'm just kind of – I definitely like Iowa. Wishing I got the number a little last night. But, it's just a little early in the week, and I haven't really finalized any decisions, but I will and have some stuff available at Vegas B. Edwards on my Twitter later this week. I will throw one out at you. Saturday in the UFC, I like Israel Adesanya in the main event. It's about a pick 'em right now. I got him as a short dog a few weeks back, but that's the UFC pay-per-view over in Melbourne, Australia on Saturday. Israel Adesanya, either as a short dog or pick 'em. There's one more that I'll give you along with Iowa that I definitely am on this week.
All right, my man. Well, that's awesome, Brian. I really appreciate that. Make sure you guys check out Brian at BrianEdwardsSports.com. He has some great picks and articles on that site, MajorWager.com. He has a lot of information there as well. Brian, thanks so much for coming on, my man. Really appreciate this talk with you because the SEC so interested in them this week.
Thanks, Kim. Appreciate you having me. Thanks, as always, my man. You have hopefully when we speak next, Badgers and Gators will still be undefeated.
Right on, man. We'll keep dreaming. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. Be good.
Well, that was awesome. Now we're going to go into a couple additional free picks that I'm going to give out to you. And right now we're going to look at West Virginia versus Texas. Texas laying about 10 points, over under is 59.5. Lots of people have Texas in a look-ahead spot to Oklahoma. But do you know why it's not a look-ahead spot?
Stupid question, that is. What a stupid question. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions.
Because the loss to LSU is still like a fresh wound, and they want to show the world that they can be a championship contender. We already know West Virginia has a new coach and a new team that only returned 7 starters from last year. They haven't even played a ranked team, and they are minus 0.5 yards per play. Texas has played 2 ranked teams, including LSU, and they are a positive 0.66 yards per play. And don't get me wrong, they played Rice and Louisiana Tech, which ain't terrible teams either. So scheduling-wise, definitely favors the Longhorns right here. I don't love their defense at all. I don't. But it should be enough to stop a bad offense and the second worst team in the Big 12 this year. And also, one other thing that I would like to bring up about this game is something kind of important here. And if you're a big college football fan, you would remember this. Last year, they lost in a last-second pass at home to Will Grier from West Virginia. This is a revenge spot. I love Texas here, minus the 10 points, 2-star premium share. Next one we are moving is Troy versus Missouri. Missouri's laying 26 points, over under 67. What do these two teams have in common? Speed, baby. Speed. Missouri is the fastest paced team at 87 plays per game in the nation, while Troy ranks 5th at 84 plays per game. Well, they score a lot of points and they get a lot of yards. Troy averages 40 points per game at 508 yards, while Missouri averages 38 points per game at 447 yards per game. Both teams are also pretty efficient on offense. 13 yards per point. That's really good. That's well above average. I do not think the defenses are that good. Troy allows 30 points per game in a bad conference with a bad schedule. And Missouri, their 15 points per game are a little bit skewed due to playing against teams like that has some injuries, like South Carolina, bad weather, teams like Wyoming. I have this game going all the way to 83 with the speed that these guys play. Troy can put up some points. I love the over 67, 3-star premium shared. Last game is Iowa versus Michigan, and I already touched on this with Brian, taking the under 48 here, 2 stars. I have it 43 from the algorithm. The last time they played, like I said, was 14-13. Iowa has the third most efficient defense in the league. Third most. All right. And 29 yards per point. That's pretty awesome. I have to think that the Michigan's D steps up here in this game at home. It's a home game for them. Iowa sometimes is predictable on offense. Iowa's D, 8.5 points per game. That's great. Michigan has allowed 19 due to the Wisconsin debacle. You take that game out, it's much less. When Michigan stepped up in class, they only scored 14 points, and most of those were garbage because they were down by a ton. Don't see that happening here. Both quarterbacks, Patterson and Stanley, should take care of the ball because they know it's an important game. They're going to kind of play a game of chess here. A lot of running. Iowa's schedule's been easy, minus the Iowa State game. So, like I said, those offensive numbers are skewed. I like Iowa keeping it very close, and I lean to them. Brian said it's already down to 3.5. I stop with the lean at 3, and we're taking the under 48. All right, my friends. Hope you enjoyed those picks. Now it is time for
the Sharp Side of the Force.
The Sharp Side of the Force is brought to you by uwager.eu for a 50%, no, cross that off, still 100% bonus. You can visit uwager.eu and use the promo code ODDSBREAKERS. Terms and conditions apply. All right, being that I'm doing this a little early, I'm just going to hit on some of the key ones here. I usually like to do the sharp money on Wednesday afternoon when I see everything coming. But sharp money on South Alabama went from plus 13 to plus 10, 25% difference there. Sharp money on East Carolina went from, it's at about plus 11 right now. It was about an 18% difference. Sharp money on Cincinnati. 25% of the tickets on Cincinnati, but 50% of the money. So there you go right there. Looking at sharp money on Pittsburgh. 48% of the tickets on Pitt, but 90% of the money from plus 5 to plus 4. Probably some news on that quarterback right there. Sharp money on Central Michigan at plus 6.5 against Eastern Michigan. Rivalry game, 24% difference. Sharp money on Stanford plus 16.5 against Washington. I won't bet that with your money. Sharp money on Air Force. 99. It's dual action. 99% of the money is on Air Force. 75% of the tickets, 99% of the money. -2 to -3.5 at Navy. So people think that Air Force is going to stomp Navy. 2 triple option teams. I never go above the 3s unless something is way different. Like unless there's a huge class, a class of talent that's a little different there. Got to be a bigger discrepancy in talent. So next one is sharp money on Old Dominion. Plus 3.5 against Western Kentucky. So that's an interesting one. Sharp money on FIU at -26 to -26.5 against UMass. UMass might be in a letdown spot. Finally winning against Akron. And then there's sharp money on Texas San Antonio. 21% of the tickets are on them at UTEP, but 58% of the money. This one went from -2 to plus 1.5 first, and then everyone started hitting Texas San Antonio. They're better than UTEP. UTEP's bad. They're very bad. And just to let you know, there's more sharp money on Michigan State, but that's probably just all the number chasers right now. Sharp totals. Boston College against Louisville at 61, over 61. That could happen. I can see that. Sharp money on the Wisconsin under 57.5. 59% of the tickets are on the under, but 97% of the money. So a lot of people like the under there. Sharp money on Miami. Dual action. 71% of the tickets are on Miami against Virginia Tech. 98% of the money on the under. Sorry, not Miami, on the under. Sharp money on the over against Liberty at New Mexico State. It's at 60. Dual action on the over, 63.5. Arizona at Colorado at 63.5. Is Khalil Tate playing? Or is someone going to completely screw everybody over at the last minute again? Who knows? Sharp money on the under. Oklahoma versus Kansas, under 67. Maybe they don't expect Kansas to score, but I wouldn't doubt if Oklahoma scores 60. Sharp money on the under for Marshall at Middle Tennessee State, under 56. 34% difference. Sharp money on Georgia State, under 72.5. A 32% difference. They're hosting Arkansas State. Sharp money on Old Dominion, under. 33% of the tickets are under 45, so most of the people like the over, but 96% of the money is on the under. So there you go. This ain't the Western Kentucky, the Jeff Brom days, is it? Sharp money on the over. Auburn versus Florida, over 47. Wow. You know, Auburn's been scoring some points. So is Florida, I guess. This one's crazy. Memphis at Louisiana Monroe, sharp money on the under 64. Only 9% of the tickets are on the under, but 94% of the money is on the under against Memphis. Memphis is a fast team. That's kind of interesting. Louisiana Monroe must not either A, play fast, or they must have a decent defense over there. I didn't look at that game yet. And there you go. There's your sharp totals. We'll do a little sharp NFL for you here as well. Looks like there's sharp money on the Jacksonville Jaguars at plus 3.5, a 26% difference. Sharp money on the Tennessee Titans at -3, hosting Buffalo. Probably because the quarterback thing at Buffalo. We don't know what's going on with Josh Allen. But at the same time, I disagree with it because I like Buffalo getting 3 points. That's it for sharp money on the sides right now. I suppose there's a little sharp money on the Bears, but not a ton at -4.5. It went down from -5 to -4.5, and I think it's creeping back up to 5. Sharp totals, we have under New England at Washington, went from 47.5 to 43.5. They don't expect Washington to score much. I agree with that. But hopefully they don't get a special teams touchdown like the Jets, like what happened in the Jets. Sharp money on the over. Atlanta at Houston, over 48.5 there. Houston's been the unders the last couple games. Scores have been in the teens there. There's just potential there and bad defense on Atlanta. Maybe they're going to come back with a force after losing. Sharp money on the over. Buffalo at Tennessee, over 38.5, a 51% difference in money. That's pretty significant right there. They expect some points to be scored in this game. Sharp money on the under. Green Bay, 48 down to 46.5. Green Bay at Dallas, 32% difference. And there is your sharp money. If you'd like us to break down a game or for next week, or if you have a question about any games this week, please feel free to tweet us at the Odds Breakers. We'll get back to you, or else someone will get back to you if it's not me, since I'll be in San Diego. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. I hope you have the best of luck on your plays. Go get some winners.